Hey, what's up, guys? Hang on one second here. Okay. I thought I'd go live real quick and talk about some of the things we saw tonight, the 5-on-5 Matchroom versus Queensbury over in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia on the Zone pay-per-view. Um, Matchroom got their shit pushed in. They got absolutely destroyed. No surprise to me. Um, I didn't do a preview video. I just didn't have the time to do it. But those of you who follow me on Twitter and those of you who read Ring Magazine's, our website, ringtv.com, you saw my predictions online and you knew who I felt was going to win. And hell, if you've paid attention to this show, if you've listened to my podcast for the last several years, you know pretty much how I'd feel going into this card. So I just wanted to give some quick thoughts on this. Look, I realized there were several different fights on the card that we could talk about, but I want to focus on the two heavyweight fights. Reason being, a lot of truth is starting to be revealed in the heavyweight division. A lot of narratives are being unraveled. Um, a lot of truth is just coming to light. You all have been told some fantastic lies for a while. Okay. And again, all lies in the end are revealed and the truth does come to light. And we're seeing that right now. So in the main event, Zhilei Zhang scores a knockout win over Deontay Wilder, who got caught with a clean shot in an exchange. You know, you kept hearing that Deontay Wilder was the faster, more athletic fighter. Well, they both threw punches at the same time, and Zhang's got there quicker because it was straighter and shorter. So guess what? Fundamentals won out. And the southpaw landed his shot first. Wilder got stunned, and he did a spin move, the same spin move he was doing on the mitts in training camp. You guys saw that video on X, Twitter, and everything else. And you know, he likes to goof around and do that stuff in training. Well, it doesn't really work in a real fight. He did the spin move, and Zhang, to his credit, didn't lay off the gas like Alexander Usyk kind of did in the 9th round with Tyson Fury. He kind of let the ref step in. Zhang said, "Nah, I'm going for it. The ref's going to have to tackle my ass." And he landed another hard shot and put Wilder to sleep. So that was it. Wilder was never in the fight. He landed a couple of shots just before he was knocked out, but nothing bothered Zhang at all. He honestly was just timing him and looking for a counter, and he landed it. You could see Zhang being patient in setting him up throughout the entire fight. It was pretty much went the way I thought. I told everybody mid-rounds KO, and that's what you got, right? Also, the other heavyweight fight, Daniel Dubois gets a win over Filip Hrgović. Now, look, Dubois did use the head a lot. He would have made Andre Ward and Evander Holyfield very proud with his use of the head. However, Hrgović just didn't look very good. He had some moments, but I thought Dubois' jab was solid in that fight, and he looked good. And, you know, look, if you look at the trajectory of recent fights with Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois, they sure make Alexander Usyk look good. If you look at the trajectory of recent fights between Deontay Wilder, Dillian White, Derek Chisora, they sure don't look good for Tyson Fury. So Tyson Fury's signature wins over the last few years really have not aged well. They don't bode well for him. Meanwhile, Alexander Usyk's wins are continuing to age like fine wine. And we had this, you know, in this generation, because of premier boxing champions and them refusing to work across the aisle and make fights with Wilder and the other premier heavyweights, we kind of had the two divisions in the heavyweight division. You had the, I would call, international side, which had Anthony Joshua, Joseph Parker, you know, all those kind of fighters. And then on the other side, you had Deontay Wilder, all the PBC guys. And eventually they brought over Tyson Fury as a cherry pick. And it was one of the worst cherry picks of the 21st century. It was one of the biggest blunders in boxing management history, at least in the last 20 or so years. Them turning down over $100 million for fights with Anthony Joshua to face Tyson Fury, who they thought was, you know, easy money. They thought that was just easy and they could claim the lineal title, even though Fury had been out for nearly 3 years and done nothing and been stripped of every title he had and been suspended for using steroids. That cherry pick went wrong. It was a disaster. They were lucky to get a draw in the first fight. The rematch was just a devastating one-sided fight. And the third fight, the only reason it was remotely competitive is because Fury had been inactive, gained a lot of weight, and was coming off of COVID and was sloppy. 100% Wilder, the guy that we saw in the rematch would have flattened 100% Fury, the guy we saw in the rematch would have flattened Wilder in the same fashion in the third fight. So anyway, look, let me share my screen real quick. Look, I get accused of being a Deontay Wilder hater. Nothing could be further from the truth. I just want to put this on record, okay? I want to make this very, very clear. I was entertained by Deontay Wilder's fights. I enjoyed watching the guy fight. He has been one of the most exciting heavyweights of this era, okay? The mid-2010s through the mid-2020s, the post-Klitschko era. And I've talked about this before. The Klitschko era had a lot of skill and talent, a lot of underrated, underappreciated skill and talent, but it didn't have personality. It just lacked characters and personality and big names. You had a couple guys come in here or there like David Hay and stuff and make a little bit of noise, but it just didn't have the personality. Well, this generation did. It didn't have the skills and everything, the talent of the Klitschko era, but it had characters. And Deontay Wilder was one of the brightest characters. Right now, you could argue that he was extremely divisive. He basically tried to start a race war going into some of those Fury fights, and it got into this weird, almost God complex with some of the LDBC guys, and there's just a weird dynamic there. All that being said, all that gave energy to the division. And there was life in the heavyweight division. There was this character. And the same can be said for Tyson Fury. He's extremely divisive. He rubs a lot of people the wrong way politically and all this stuff. But he is a character, right? So that's what this era has had. And Deontay Wilder, again, one of the biggest characters. So I just want to read this tweet. I said, so two things can be true at the same time. Deontay Wilder is one of the most overrated fighters of the 21st century. However, he was an overachiever who gave us super exciting moments and added a lot of character to the heavyweight division. It's time to hang him up. Okay. I know there's going to be people out there who are triggered by that tweet, and they're going to try to find some hidden meaning and dog whistle in it and go nuts with it. Fine. Make your videos and podcasts talking about it. You're all morons anyway. What I said there is exactly what I'm saying. Like I'm not, there's no hidden meaning. Okay. Just take it at face value, guys. A couple other tweets I wanted to share. I said, Usyk's wins over Joshua and Dubois continue to age like fine wine. All is being revealed in the heavyweight division. Let's see what else. I said Wilder tried that spin move he was doing on the mitts in training camp, and yeah, it didn't turn out so well in an actual fight. That's going to trigger some people. I also tweeted, and y'all thought this guy would KO Joshua? There's a reason Wilder's team turned down generational wealth, literally 9 figures, to face him twice, which he was offered to do. So, okay, I can keep going with some of the tweets I've posted, but we'll let that go for now. Back to that, though. Deontay Wilder's career is done. He needs to hang him up. He's made a lot of money, not as much as he could have made if he had taken the deal with DAZN to fight AJ twice and get $100 million. And by the way, it wasn't just AJ twice. It was Dominic Breazeale and then AJ twice. Would have been over $100 million. But anyway, he still made tens of millions of dollars. He made a lot of money, an overachiever, won a heavyweight belt, had several defenses, went to the Olympics. He has a statue in his hometown, and I think that's warranted. He's a hero in his hometown. And, props to him for all his achievements. All that being said, many prominent members of the American boxing press were calling him the greatest puncher in the history of boxing. They weren't saying he was one of the hardest punchers of his generation. They weren't saying he was one of the hardest heavyweight punchers of his generation. They were saying he was the biggest puncher in the history of boxing. And there are still people, I mean, even during the broadcast, the commentary crew made comments like that. It's absolutely asinine. When you look, Deontay Wilder had a money right hand, a very good right hand. Okay. There wasn't much power in the jab or the hook or the uppercut or body punches, but in the straight overhand right, he had power in that. And he knocked out a bunch of guys with that punch, right? Okay. So he did have that punch. But if you look at the guys he fought, let's and this, again, this isn't me beating up on Wilder. This is me talking about the American boxing press's and fans and pundits' obsession with him. For some reason, they were fixated and obsessed with this guy. And I think politically, socially, he checks a lot of boxes in their minds for what a dominant heavyweight's supposed to be. And so now they have to do all these mental gymnastics to try to explain why he's looked so poor once he stepped up and finally faced the elite. Let's be clear about one thing. The three best fighters Deontay Wilder ever faced as a professional were Tyson Fury, Joseph Parker, and Zhilei Zhang. How'd he do in those fights? Well, he was 0-4-1. And a lot of people felt he was lucky to get the draw, and he may have been 0-5. He was KO'd in three of those fights. He was KO'd in 3 of those fights. And if you look at all 5 of them, look, if you're being very generous, okay, you could give him 5 rounds in that first Fury fight. You could give him, he won 0 in the rematch. You could give him 2 or 3 in the third fight. Again, if you're being generous. He won 0 rounds against Parker, 0 rounds against Zhang. So in those 5 fights against the 3 best fighters he ever faced, he won maybe 8 rounds. Okay. Maybe 8 rounds. Those were all 12-round fights. Do the math, guys. So, and he was knocked out viciously in 3 of them, right? Brutally stopped in 3 of them. So again, not saying this to beat up on the guy. I'm saying this to just show his level and where he was. He was promoted and marketed as a generational talent. Again, the hardest puncher in the history of boxing, and a first ballot Hall of Famer, all this kind of stuff. He just wasn't on that level. And all the people out there that bash Arturo Gatti for being in the Hall of Fame, right? Arturo Gatti shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. He wasn't on that level. A lot of those are the same people who are going to vote for Deontay Wilder to be in the Hall of Fame, and he couldn't hold a candle to Arturo Gatti pound for pound. That's the truth. But having said that, mark my words, on the first ballot, Deontay Wilder will get into the Hall of Fame because all of the American boxing writers will vote for him. All of them. What I find so interesting, guys, go back to ringtv.com. Look at our website and look at our panel who gave their picks for this fight. There's 20 of us. And 12 of us had Zhang winning. 8 had Wilder winning. Almost half, right? And you notice a pattern with all of them. It's the American writers. And then if you look at a lot of other American pundits on other platforms and stuff, they all picked Wilder. There were a lot of people betting Wilder. And, we have a couple of big time gamblers that call into the show. And I have a lot of guys around the country that call me all the time asking like, hey, how should I bet this? How should I bet that? And I give them my advice. And I told them, dude, this is free money. This is free money. All Zhang has to do is get through the first 2 or 3 rounds where he might be a little cold and stiff and Wilder might get a home run punch in there, win the lottery, Other than that, this is going to be a mid-rounds KO for Zhang. And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. So this was free money. They were just handing you. This was an example of how in the world are people seeing this as an even matchup. There is something about Deontay Wilder that particularly American boxing pundits can't let go of. They still think that this guy is George Foreman, Lennox Lewis, Joe Louis, Larry Holmes. They think he's on that level, and they just can't see past that. It's amazing. It's really amazing. I enjoyed watching Deontay Wilder's fights. He was a great character for the heavyweight division. He gave us really exciting moments, and he was a true overachiever. For the guy who came to the sport late and was not the most skilled fighter, not the most schooled fighter, he sure made up for a lot of that with his tenacity, his grit, his heart, and that right hand. And he was able to win a belt and hold on to it and win multiple defenses. When he finally got in there against the elite level guys, he struggled, right? He struggled and he lost all of his fights against the elite. But against the B-level, C-level guys, he did his thing. And he entertained fans for a decade. But before I move on to the other guys, one more thing about Deontay Wilder, because a lot of you guys, if you're listening to the show for the first time and stuff, this guy had an opportunity to fight for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world late 2014, early 2015. Vladimir Klitschko wanted to fight Berman Stavern. They were willing to offer Deontay Wilder step-aside money. Wilder at that point was being promoted by Lou DiBella, but he still had Shelley Finkel around. He was a PBC guy. He might have even still been affiliated with Golden Boy Promotions still to an extent, because I'm trying to think of when that all broke up. It was around that time. Okay, so he had this management team around him. But Klitschko wanted undisputed, and they were willing. Wilder was Berman Stavern's WBC mandatory. Klitschko had all the belts. He had dominated the division for a decade, and he wanted a chance at undisputed. And they were willing to give Wilder step aside and give him a fight give him a fight next for undisputed, which would have been an 8-figure payday. Now you gotta go back, guys, to 2014, 2015. Wilder had never made 7 figures. Okay. Had he taken the step aside money, obviously, Klitschko destroys Berman Stavern in the 3 or 4 rounds, right? Becomes undisputed. And then you get a fight between Klitschko and Wilder. Wilder would have got 8 figures for that fight, because he would have been a mandatory. There would have been a certain percentage in there that he would be guaranteed. And they probably would want to avoid a purse bid. So they would have given him more money, a higher cut than he would have gotten otherwise as a mandatory. So he would have gotten an 8-figure payday and gotten a chance at undisputed against an all-time great heavyweight. His team rejected it. I'm not saying Deontay Wilder rejected it. A lot of you guys, again, you're thinking I'm beating up on Wilder. His team, Shelley Finkel, the management at PBC, they turned it down. Why? Why would you turn down 8 figures? You have a chance to make generational wealth for your fighter. The future's not guaranteed. You could blow out your knee, blow out your shoulder a week from now and never fight again, right? You could get in a car accident. Anything could happen. You have a chance to fight for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world against an aging Klitschko who is on the downside of his career, getting old, and make that kind of money. They said no. Years later, they had a chance to fight Anthony Joshua. At one point, that would have been for the undisputed championship. Joshua had all the belts except that BC, which Wilder had. And they were offered, Wilder had a mandatory at the time, Dominic Breazeale, and his promoter at the time, Lou DiBella, negotiated a great deal for him with DAZN when they were just throwing away money like candy. And they offered him $20 million for Stavern and $40 million twice with Anthony Joshua. A win, lose, or draw in the first fight, they do a rematch. So it was a 3-fight deal for $100 million, literally 9 figures. Okay. That's true generational wealth. And once again, it would have been at one point for undisputed. It would have been for all the belts. And Wilder's team turned it down. In fact, they didn't just turn it down. They kicked Lou DiBella to the curb at that point because there was a beef there. A promoter's job is to get his fighter the biggest opportunities in the biggest paydays. And twice, Wilder was lined up for unbelievable opportunities and massive paydays, 8 to 9 figure paydays. And he was advised to turn those deals down. I could talk about the track record of his promotion doing this with other fighters in the past and how they've been advised, ill-advised, and have gone on to have difficulties when they've been steered in a certain direction and it didn't quite work out for them. I could talk about just sticking with Wilder, though. Again, they thought Tyson Fury was easy money. They thought it was easy work, right? And they made a business decision. It didn't work out well for them. And here we are years later, and we see what happens with Wilder. So all that being said, okay, Deontay, like if you're listening, dude, hang him up. Enjoy your retirement, brother. You've made a lot of money. You've made your family proud. You're a good father. You take great care of your kids. You're a hero in your hometown. You have nothing to be ashamed of, bro. You achieved way more than anybody could have ever imagined, right? I've sparred and fought with guys in the Masters that are now in their 40s that fought you and beat you as an amateur, right? Like you've come a long way since that time, right? Dude, you have nothing to be ashamed of. Hang them up, walk away while you still got your health. Now, for Big Bang Zhang, for Zhilei Zhang, top 5 heavyweight, definitely a top 10 heavyweight. I'm trying to think who do you rate above Zhang right now? Obviously, the champion is Usyk. Right behind him is Fury. Right behind him is Joshua. Right behind him is Parker. And then right there at number 5, I think it's got to be the man from China. I think he has to be right there, right? Who else do you put in that spot? So there's a top 5 heavyweight, maybe top 10. And he's going to be lined up for a big payday. I'd like to see him against Anthony Joshua. And I think His Excellency, by the way, I don't think he likes being called that anymore, Turki Al-Sheikh. I think that he can negotiate a deal that would make a lot of sense for a Joshua Zhang fight. And that'd be a lot of fun, yo. I'd like to see it. I know you guys would too. And while we know Fury and Usyk are going to rematch later this year in December, so they're busy, right? They're unavailable. So man, take Joshua, take Zhang, have them fight again, or have them fight. I think that'd be a lot of fun. There's also, I would mention Parker, but Parker's already fought Joshua, right? He's already fought Zhang. So I just don't know where to go with Joseph Parker. He's kind of in a tough spot. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of demand for him to fight Joshua again. I don't know. Maybe, and possibly a rematch between him and Zhang. That could work. Any combination of those fights, sign me up. But I think Joshua Zhang, that would be a lot of fun. Okay, let's talk about Dubois Hrgovic. Kind of ugly fight with a lot of headbutts and blood and stuff. But I did think that Dubois did some good work in there. And regardless of how he got the W, he got it. So since the loss to Alexander Usyk, Dubois had just destroyed Jarrell Big Baby Miller, got rid of that cheater, beat him up. That was awesome. And then he gets this win over Filip Hrgovic, who was an undefeated top 10 ranked heavyweight. I've been one of the guys on the Ring Ratings panel that's been saying Daniel Dubois is a top 10 heavyweight. And not everyone's agreed with me. In fact, the majority of the panel has disagreed with me. Well, now they're going to have to listen to me. I've been vindicated once again because he's proven himself to be a top 10 heavyweight. He is. And so now, the ring ratings committee will talk tomorrow, and I'm going to be like, "Ha, told you so," and everyone's going to have to say, "Okay, Mike, you had that one right." Dubois is a top 10 heavyweight. He is. He's learned on the job. He's had a couple of tough nights. I get it, but he's been willing as a really young guy to fight top heavyweights. And when you do that as a guy with a limited amateur background and a young guy without a lot of seasoning, you're going to have to do some learning on the job. You're going to have some tough lessons learned. And he's had those nights. But all in all, he's shown a lot of tremendous improvement. And I think he's a top 10 heavyweight. And Alexander Usyk has 2 wins over Anthony Joshua, who's perhaps the second best heavyweight in the world. I got to say, guys, head to head, I like Joshua over Fury. I've been saying that for years. Go back and check the record. I always like Joshua over Wilder. Go back and check the record. Parker would have always beat Deontay Wilder. Not Tyson Fury, though. They wouldn't even fight because they're friends. But Parker would always beat Deontay Wilder. I've been talking about that kind of stuff for years. But Joshua might be the second best heavyweight in the world, no less than the third best heavyweight in the world. And Usyk has 2 clear, decisive wins over him, and he stopped Daniel Dubois. Had a difficult moment, right, where that if you want to call it a legal blow, an illegal blow, a borderline blow, whatever it was, the ref ruled it as a low blow. Usyk got a few minutes to recover, but he was still hurt and damaged from it. And Dubois tried to follow up, but Usyk, to his credit, rose to the occasion and weathered that storm and then stopped Dubois. So the people that are mad that Dubois didn't get the knockout, look, dude, it was a call that didn't go his way, but it's not like that low blow call affected the scoring of the fight. It's not like it was an even fight. It's not like Dubois was doing great work and the fight was up for grabs and that call cost him a decision or something, right? On the cards. The only round he won is where he landed that shot that at best was borderline, like half low, half legal. I personally thought it was low, and he went low multiple times in the fight. Did Usyk milk it a little bit and look for some help from the ref? Yep, he sure did. Absolutely did. No different than what Floyd Mayweather would do, Bernard Hopkins, Muhammad Ali, and 1,000 other fighters that you all love would do in that situation. Okay? It's called craft. He did that. He survived. And then he not only survived, he dominated and stopped Daniel Dubois. That win has aged extremely well recently. Cross-reference that with Tyson Fury's recent wins, and they haven't aged quite as well. For Filip Hrgović, I don't think this loss takes a lot from him. He suffered some headbutts. It was just, it's not like he was stopped and dominated or something like that. It was cuts, right? So he'll get better from this, but Hrgović has limitations. He's going to go as far as his chin and skin will take him. What I mean by skin is the cuts, right? Because he cuts. And he could be susceptible to that in future fights because he's not hard to hit. We've seen that. So he'll go as far as his chin and skin will take him, but and he's going to be a tough out for anybody. I still think Hrgović is a top 10 heavyweight, but he does have limitations. So where we're at the heavyweight division right now, I told you guys my top 5. It's Usyk, Fury, Joshua, Parker, and Zhang. That's my top 5. I still think Dubois is in the top 10. I think Hrgović is in the top 10. The other 3 guys, I don't know, pick 3 names. There's several you can choose from. But it's kind of, after those 7 fighters I named, it's kind of wide open, honestly. Things have been blown wide open. Ajit Caballel probably in the top 10 now himself. You can make that argument. Anyway, hopefully we get to see Zhang back in there. Maybe it's against Joshua, maybe a rematch of Parker, whatever it is. And hopefully we see Deontay Wilder retire as he should. And I still feel that 5 years from now, he's going to be voted into the Hall of Fame. Although, again, he wouldn't get my vote. He's just not on that level. Never has been.